Ken Dobberpuhl. I'm a fitness professional. I currently teach a couple of classes at SWAC down in Brookings, Better Bones and Balance, and another class called Physical Conditioning, which we're going to change to Active Healthy Aging because I think it's probably going to attract more of the people that I'm trying to attract than just something generic like physical conditioning. But anyway, the purpose of this program today is to kind of give you guys some things that I think are important for consideration as we all age, and what are the things that we really need to do physically to support our activities of daily living. So I think a lot of times when we think about exercise and working out, we talk about people think of going to the gym and going through a series of machine workouts and so forth. How many of you do something like that? Go to a gym and use the machines, or? Used to. Well, that's another phrase we're going to have. We don't want to do too many of those used to's. I mean, we all get to that point at some juncture, but my point is that a lot of times the workouts that people are doing at the gym don't really support what they need to be able to do at that particular point in their life. So we're going to be looking at really a functional approach to exercise as we age, and hopefully it will give you some things to think about, some activity. I'm going to talk for about a half an hour or so. I'll try to keep that to a minimum, and we're going to go back and you'll have the opportunity to kick the tires and play a little bit if you want, or you can just observe, that's fine. But let you kind of experience a few of these things that I'm going to be talking about. So the first thing I want to do to start off with, I've got I think it's a very profound video. It's not exactly uplifting in some ways, but I think it makes a good point. So I'm going to show you this video, and then if you're still able to speak after you watch it, I'll get your feedback. All right? So this is called Your Last 10 Years. And hopefully this will all play.
What will your last 10 years look like? Will you be quick enough for a game of tag with your grandchild? Strong enough to embrace every moment? Will you grow old with vitality? Or get old with disease? It's time to decide. The average Canadian will spend their last 10 years in sickness. Change your future at makehealthlast.ca.
Okay, well, what do you think? Sobering, isn't it?
Yes.
And there's certainly no guarantees. I'm under no illusions. I have my challenges. I'm sure every one of you have things that are cropping up that you weren't expecting, or you've had an unexpected accident. So things can happen, but I guess the point is I'm in the camp of let's hedge our bets in the direction of staying as vital as we can for as long as we can. So let's take a look at something that I think is really important to begin with. If you guys can pass these out. Pass those around. This is your first homework assignment. So I think it's really important that we have a very strong why. Why should you dedicate some time each day to movement practice, as I like to call it? I don't like the term exercise so much. I'm trying to get that out of my lexicon, because I think a lot of people, there's a very negative connotation in our culture when we say exercise. A lot of people just polarize immediately. Ugh, I hate exercise. Well, you may hate exercise, but most of us do enjoy movement on some level. We like to dance, we might like to hike, we like to go fishing. These all require the ability to move. So I think it's really important to kind of set a tone and think about why you want to do this. So your homework assignment, you don't need to do it now, but I would suggest you take this and write your why down. Okay? Why are you going to commit time for yourself to improve or maintain your ability to move well as you age? And then after you've come up with your why, make yourself a promise and write it down. Okay? And if you can, I would recommend you post this on your refrigerator, your bathroom mirror, wherever you're going to see it, because it's easy to kind of, oh yeah, that was a good idea on Tuesday when I heard Ken talk, but today's Wednesday and we're off to other things. So think about this a little bit and really be honest with yourself about why you want to do it. One of my mentors, who was a very gifted athlete most of his life, competing in the Highland Games. Are you familiar with those activities? So he's a big, strong guy. You start throwing telephone poles around the caber, that's some serious stuff. Well, you know, he's trained hard and worked out hard and got the replacements to prove it, shoulders, hips, so he can't do that stuff anymore. So his goal at this point, and he's only in his mid-60s, notice I said only, his goal is to be able to dance at his granddaughter's wedding, which is pretty far off. So that's his why. That's why he gets up and keeps working despite the pains, the lack of mobility in some cases. He keeps working on that stuff. So I encourage you to come up with your own why and then make yourself a promise that hopefully you'll be able to keep for a while. Okay? So that's your first assignment. Now, moving along here, what are some things in terms of aging, what are some things that we can't do much about in terms of our biological aging process?
Genetic.
Okay, there's some genetic predisposition. What else?
Injuries.
Injuries. Those things happen. We can get gray hair. We can get some wrinkles. We can get hair growing in places that we didn't think it was supposed to grow.
Sagging body parts.
What's that? Sagging body parts. Yeah, you got it. All right. So there's a lot of things that happen that just kind of come with the territory, and it is what it is. But I would like to address a few things that I think that we can do something about. One is sarcopenia is the fancy word for it. Who's an A student in here that knows what sarcopenia is? This is your word for the day. Any ideas? All right. That is when our muscle tissue starts to break down with age. We start to lose muscle mass. Why is that an important thing to consider, or why should we be concerned about that?
Can we slow it down?
What's that?
Can we slow it down?
We can. I think we can, yes. But what in terms of aging, why is this a concern?
Mobility, strength.
Strength, okay.
Muscle memory.
All right, so if we don't have strength, that's a huge issue. We obviously also need to have the mobility to move. So, in my opinion, I think it's a good question. Do we slow down because we're old, or do we get old because we're slowing down? And I think it's a lot more of the latter. We start slowing down, we retire, we're less active, and things just start becoming more sedentary. And that's, to some degree, I guess, expected. But with just a little bit of effort every day, I believe that we can kind of at least maintain what we've got, and if possible, you might even improve and strengthen your bones and your muscles and so forth. So here's one little takeaway. Your body doesn't know or care what you intend to do to it. It only knows what you actually do to it. Now, we've all made deals with ourselves, right? I'm going to stop eating that stuff, or I'm going to start going to the gym, or I'm going to start doing this or that. And your body really does not know or care what you do or don't do to it. It only knows what we actually do. So if you can keep that in your consciousness, I think it's a good motivator, and that's part of making that promise to your body that I asked you to do in this on this little card. So I think it's important to keep that framed up. One other thing two big things I think that we are concerned about as we age are being able to maintain our independent living, and being concerned about falling. Okay? So having the strength to prevent a fall is huge. Having the bone density that is going to support us so that in the event we do have an incident and we do land kind of hard, we don't break something in the process. Shuffling gait. How many people have noticed that when you're walking around now, you every once in a while you kind of trip or catch your feet? All right, so this is again, is sort of a neurological thing that kind of creeps up on us, and if we don't actively work on picking those feet up, we start shuffling, okay? And this is certainly a simple thing that we can work on. It's just a matter of being conscious of it and practicing a little bit. And we're going to get an opportunity to do that. Our reaction times sometimes slow as we get older because we stop reacting to things. So a lot of times if we can interject things like playing with your grandkids is a great way to keep your reactions good, because you don't know where those little buggers are going to come at the side of you or throw something to you or at you, and you have to react. So these are things that we can improve if we just practice a little bit consciously. Also, learning new patterns is good for what else besides our physical well-being. Like if you take a dance class and have to learn a new dance.
Our mental.
All right, the mental side of it. So that's part of the aging process also. So the term that's quite or fairly popularized right now is neuroplasticity. Anybody heard of that before? What's your opinion, or what do you think that is? What does that mean to you?
To expand your consciousness.
Okay. So the good news is they're showing in research that our brain doesn't just go into this rotting decay state and we become dumber and dumber, or we can't remember things. Again, it's one of those things, we have to dust that stuff off. We have to challenge our brain, we have to challenge our body. So without some sort of challenge, the body has no reason to adapt. In fact, I would go as far as to say that our bodies are so efficient that if we don't use things, they start to shut them off compartmentally. Because a lot of things like movement, for example, takes energy. And our bodies are very efficient and try to save energy all the time. So that it's happy just to sit here. It's okay with that. But the cost of that is the muscles and so forth that we may want to use this afternoon to go play tennis or golf or go hike down to the river to go fishing may not be on board with us. Okay? So we want to maintain that not only the physical but the mental part of it also to keep ourselves sharp. So learning a foreign language, Sudoku, or I never say that right. Sudoku, yeah. And things like that are good mental exercise. and all part of the equation as well. So, in the long term of things, aging is truly a long lesson in humility, as we're all experiencing, for better or worse. But I'm hoping that through this presentation, you'll see that there's some viable ways of entry point for each of you into improving what you've already got, or at least maintaining what you've got. Okay? And I think that's really the important thing. So as we age, as I said earlier, falling and maintaining an independent lifestyle, those are pretty good. Those might even end up on your why list, why you want to spend the time. Because I think most of us can agree we don't want to have to go into an assisted living situation any sooner than we have to, if ever. And falling is a real issue as we age. So, why do people fall? Gravity. It's always there, isn't it? Boom, down it goes. All right, so gravity. What else? Why else do we fall?
Not paying attention to our
Losing
surroundings.
Not paying attention to the surroundings. So,
balance.
balance, okay. And there's one more thing that we'll touch on, and that is the strength component and that neuroplasticity. We may have the ability to get our base of support wide enough, fast enough to catch ourselves, but do we have the strength to decelerate? So if we're walking along and this is kind of raised up and I'm not paying attention, I'm kind of do one of these things, do I have that strength to catch myself? And it takes a lot more to stop yourself than you realize. Okay? It takes a lot of strength. And it's a type of strength that normally we don't think of working on. When we think of exercise, we might think of a squat, and we're focusing on this up motion, right? How much can I squat? Put a bunch of weight on, come down and up. But in our situation, what I'm more concerned with is, can you take a load, your body, that's moving with momentum, and stop it and hold it? Okay? So that's something we'll be playing with a little bit here. So we want to work on our deceleration strength. And that's something that you don't really see people working on at the gym. They'll be sitting there doing curls and stuff like that. That might look nice. Most of the guys in here, we're probably past the point where the girls are looking at our arms. But that's another issue. All right. So falling then, I like to characterize, there's fall prevention and fall resistance. And I'd like you to kind of think about those two terms, the difference between them. Fall prevention is more of the environmental stuff, like what Pip was saying about being aware of our surroundings. So I think most of you are probably pretty aware of your home setup. You know, you don't have electrical cords hanging around in places. What are some other things environmentally that we should be aware of in our homes?
Throw rugs. Throw rugs.
Throw rugs. Okay, what else? Steps. Steps, okay.
Lighting.
Lighting, huge, especially because as we get older, our eyes don't adjust as well. What else?
Pets.
Pets.
Our dog trips us.
And dog toys, pet toys. Yeah. And grandkids. Not only their physical presence when they're running around us, but all the stuff they bring and their Legos or whatever that are all over the floor. So there's a lot of things that, you know, are pretty obvious that we need to be aware of environmentally. And I think that's, well, it should be intuitive, I hope. But if it isn't, do a little home survey when you get home and make sure that you're setting yourself up for as safe an environment as you can. Get handrails installed before you need them if you feel like you're getting to that point. Make sure the lighting's good, that the steps are marked, or that you've changed some of those transitions. Maybe you've put in another a ramp or something. So that's the physical or the environmental part of it. The fall resistance part of it is what we're going to do for our bodies to resist falling. And so as I've already alluded to, we need to be able to get our base of support, which in this case are my 2 feet, and we need to keep that base of support outside of this. This is my center of gravity, okay? So if I start to move that center of gravity outside of my base of support, I'm going to have to do something. I'm going to fall or have to adjust. So we need to be able to get our base of support outside, or maintain it outside of our center of gravity. We need to be able to do that quickly. And once we've done that quickly, as I mentioned earlier, we need to have the strength to be able to catch ourselves or decelerate that momentum. Okay? So if we're looking at the anatomy of a fall, we want to make sure that our base of support is always outside of our center of gravity, that we are able to move quickly, which means we're going to have to practice some things with our feet, even if it's line dancing or something. Anything that gets you moving your feet quickly is going to keep that nervous system firing so that you will be able to get your feet wide enough. And then hopefully with some conscious or focused strength training, you'll develop the strength to at least catch yourself, okay? So I think these are important things to consider. All right. Next thing I want to talk about, when we talk about exercise, there's a nice description that I've used for years that I got from one of my mentors, and he calls it the 4 pillars of human movement. So a lot of times when I speak to people that aren't athletes or just regular folks, that they go, well, what should I do? What exercises should I do? So let me ask you guys, what do you think are some foundational exercises that the majority of us able-bodied people should be able to do? I mean, if you've got an issue, that's something else. Walking, fundamental gait pattern. Okay, you've just nailed the first pillar, gait. Okay, what else?
Lifting.
Lifting. Okay, and I'll add something to that. The pillar actually is involved with pushing and pulling. And what other kind of lifting do we have to do? We need to get level change. We need to get this up and down, or sometimes we need to pick up a bag of potting soil or something and pick it up. That's a level change. All right, what other movements do we need to be able to do?
Twisting.
Excellent. Rotation. God, you guys are good. All right, so I can't believe this. This is the first time I've done this talk, and you guys actually nailed all 4 pillars of human movement, and you're not even kinesiologists, people that study movement. That's awesome. Congratulations. So, those 4 pillars, and there will be a test. So, remember it or write it down. First pillar, gait or locomotion. So walking, again, is our most fundamental method of getting around the planet. So we want to maintain our ability to walk for as long as possible. Okay, what are some other ways that we move or can move? Because this pillar can be bigger than just walking.
Bending and picking things up, for example.
Oh, we'll get to that one. That's a different pillar. But in terms of moving, gait or locomotion, running,
Skipping.
skipping. Oh, you skipped one? Right. Dancing. What else? What else can get you from point A to point B?
Biking.
Cycling, swimming. All right. And so those things, the gait portion of it, the walking, is pretty fundamental. We all have to do that every day. The other things can not only give us a different way to move, but they allow us to exercise our heart for cardiovascular health, our lungs. And so that kind of folds into that pillar as your cardiovascular exercise. So gait or locomotion. One other thing, actually there's 2 other things. We can also carry things, okay? So is there any benefit to this? Yeah, we have to carry stuff all the time. So we can carry things in a suitcase manner like this. We can hold it up here, or we can walk with it here. Now, when I'm doing this, do you think there's a lot going on? Yeah, there's a lot of balance. This is an asymmetrical load. Okay? So, the ability to carry things. So, we sometimes have to carry things like this. Sometimes we're in the suitcase position. We might put it up on our shoulder. I had to carry some fencing stuff the other day, so up on the shoulder and walking. So these are movement patterns we don't think about actually training until we need them. So wouldn't it be a good idea to maybe put some of these things into practice in a conscious way so that we can maintain the ability to do that?
What about going up and down steps?
We'll get to that. That's a different pillar. So gait or locomotion, maintain that walking pattern. Get out and walk. What's the recommended number of steps we should be taking every day?
10,000.
10,000. How many of you are getting your 10,000 in? All right, good man. So there's all kinds of, there's very inexpensive pedometers. If you need that reinforcement, and maybe at the beginning it's a good idea, there you go. Put a little pedometer on. Or we have the higher tech Fitbits and all this. There's no excuse in this day and age for not having the technology. There's apps on your phone. So just be curious. See how many steps you're taking on an average. Do that for about a week. And how many steps you're taking every day. And then increase about 10% every week or two until you're up closer to that 10,000. I mean, there's nothing particularly magical about it, but it's going to get you out probably for at least 30 minutes every day walking, which is the whole point, okay?
So does that include walking around the house?
It includes everything. It all counts. So it doesn't just mean you have to go to the gym, get on the treadmill, and walk an hour. Well, in my last video here, that'll say it all. I won't spoil that. So, the first pillar, gait or locomotion. So that's carrying things, that's walking, anything that's moving you from point A to point B. Try to get out of breath once a day. Yeah, how about that, Pauline? Get out of breath. All right?
Yes.
You don't need to run marathons, but I think it's important for your heart to make sure that you strain yourself just enough every day to where your heart is going to be able to react. Because if you're, say, babysitting your grandchild and you're engaged in a conversation with some other adult, and you look around, oh, geez, he's heading for the street, you better be able to get over there quickly, as in, maybe even run, okay, quickly, and not have your heart be overly taxed, and that you can get there in time to keep the little bugger from getting into trouble. All right, so first pillar, gait or locomotion. The next one is the one you were just talking about. You mentioned steps, all right? So level changes. So in the Better Bones and Balance class, one of the things that we use a lot of is a step where we're just stepping up and down, okay? And this one's a little bit short. For those of you that are in my class, how high should the step be ultimately?
8 inches.
8 inches. What's so magical about 8 inches? Right, that's what the standard is for building codes and so forth. Okay, so you want to be able to make sure that you can manage that. So if you have a step at home, a couple steps going into your house or something, there's your workout right there. You can just practice going up and down that. Okay, so level changes could be stepping up and down. What else?
Sitting.
Yep, sitting. And why is that squat pattern so important to maintain?
You hurt yourself.
I'm sorry?
You can hurt yourself if you don't do it properly.
If you don't do it properly, that's true. But why do we need to maintain that pattern throughout our life?
And back-
Well, indirectly it'll help us maintain strength to keep us from falling, but what else?
Restroom.
Got to be able to get off the toilet, got to be able to get off the chair. If we can't, this is one of the criteria that can be used to determine whether we end up in assisted living. More of that why we want to put some effort into this. So, maintaining the ability to get out of a chair, off the toilet, extremely important. And if we want to be more active, then obviously we're going to have to be even maybe do that with some weight on our back. Like maybe we have a backpack on because we've got to hike or go up and over rocks and things like that. So it really depends on what your activity level is going to be, how far you want to take that. But at a minimum, we need to be able to get off of come up off of a chair safely and efficiently, or off the toilet. So those are level changes. And then the other one I mentioned is probably, I think, the most important pattern that doesn't get trained, and that's a hip hinge. And a hip hinge is, if we've got something on the floor, and it could be a pencil or a piece of paper, it doesn't matter. How many of you have hurt your back picking up something that was just nothing? Okay? Normally what happens when we hurt ourselves is we're rounding our back and then we reach, we rotate. So flexion, and rotation at the same time. There's very few things that I say never about, but that is one of them. Never, ever do that, okay? You're going to set yourself up. You might get away with it a few times, but try, if you've got to pick something up, get over the top of it, push your hips back, okay? And then I bend my knees and I pick the object up, okay? When I go to put it down, I'm pushing my hips back. So I'm never out in this rounded position and trying to pull it up with my back. We want to use our hips. So this hip hinge pattern, and we'll practice this in a few minutes, is simply hinging, okay? And you can practice this against a wall, literally, getting out maybe about half of one of your foot lengths and just practice this. Because when I ask them to squat, here's what I usually see. I'll turn sideways. People go like this. They push their knees forward and then they, whoa, I can't get there. So then they start to move their hips back. When the first thing that should happen in a squat or when we pick something up is our hips go back and we sit. Okay? And how many of you are still able to sit in what I call a third world position? All the way down.
Last year I wasn't able to.
All right? So if you can't get there, it might be a good goal. And how could you do that if you can't just get into it? What's a way to practice that?
A little at a time.
What's that?
A little at a time.
Well, how would you physically practice it?
I'll hold on to the back of the chair.
Exactly. So hang on to something solid, a sink, a railing, or whatever you've got available. Just let your hands rest and then sit down. This is also a great way to traction your back if your low back bothers you. If you can tolerate being down in this position. Okay? We notice that cultures that sit like this a lot have almost zero complaint of back pain. What you guys are doing right now, probably the hardest thing on your back, sitting. And we all do it way too much. Me too. I mean, I move a lot all day, but I find myself taking the shape of my container occasionally. So try to sit less, maintain that squat pattern. All right, so we've got gaiter locomotion, pillar 1, pillar 2, level changes. So that's stepping up and down, squatting, and hip hinging, or deadlifting, picking things up off the ground. We'll practice those in a moment. Third pillar, pushing and pulling. What do you think that involves? Students, help me here.
Legs.
What are some ways we can push? All right, we can push forward. We can push things up. And if we're in a chair that has arms, you guys don't have those. This is kind of important, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay? Although, if we're really using the big guys back here the way we should be, we shouldn't need these, but we use whatever we have as we get older, right? I'm gonna pull out the stops. So we want to be able to use our legs, and specifically our hips, to really get that good pillar strength under us to get us up and down. But if we can't, then we need to use our arms. So pushing and pulling, 3 ways you can push. We can push overhead, put things up on a shelf. We can push something forward, like if you guys don't push your car to start it anymore. Remember that in high school, having to push the car, pop the clutch, get in? Boy, that would drive a millennial nuts right now. How do you jump start a car? Anyway, I shouldn't say that.
They don't know what they know.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so we've got overhead pushing, horizontal pushing, which could be like a push-up. That's a real basic pushing pattern. And then pushing down like in a chair. And the same thing for pulling. We can pull things from a low position up. We can pull something that's in front of us towards us. And if you're a real thrill seeker, how many of you are doing your pull-ups every day? That's probably one of the hardest body weight exercises there is. Doing a pull-up or a chin-up. So those are the 3 ways we can pull. So you want to try to incorporate pulling in those different directions and pushing as much as you can. Okay? So pushing and pulling. And the 3rd or 4th pillar is rotation. And this not only includes, well, let me talk about what rotation is. First of all, is walking a rotational exercise?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Is running?
Yes.
Is swimming?
Yes.
Is swinging a golf club?
Yeah.
Is throwing something? Yeah. Is turning your compost? All right. Or what else would we be pulling down from? I don't know. Chopping. Chopping. Okay, so we're chopping wood. Those all require rotation. So we can't live without rotation. We just don't think about it. We just do it for the most part. Except when we don't do it. So case in point, do I have any golfers in here? Okay? So you've probably seen somebody. If I were, I'll use my pseudo club here. I'm getting ready to tee off. So if I get like this and I go, does that look like a good golf swing? Are they going to put me in the PGA? Why not? That looked pretty good to me. Did you hear that whiff? I didn't rotate. Now, if I'm here and now I turn my hips and shoulders together, that just looks cool, doesn't it? Probably sliced it, but it looks cool. So the key with rotation is hips and shoulders always should move together. Okay? So you've probably seen people that if you give them a ball and they do something like this, right? Well, if they would just step with their other foot, it would just all happen. Okay? But nobody has shown them how. So this is where physical education has sort of failed us in our society. We don't really teach people how to squat, how to throw correctly. We're just supposed to get this by osmosis, or early in PE class, it's determined that you are either a good ball player or you're not. And so if you're not, you probably didn't like PE, and hence you don't exercise. And this is a problem. So what we want to do is try to improve our physical education. So we want to learn to make sure we know how to level change safely and correctly, how to rotate and not hurt ourselves. So rotation is really an important aspect of maintaining our mobility, and it's also for power. Okay, so if you are engaged in a sport like golf or some other activity, that's the only way you're going to develop power is through that rotational aspect. And then this one is a little more counterintuitive, and that is anti-rotation. There are times in class where we'll put ourselves in a position, like say a plank or a push-up position, and you bring one hand up and do this, okay? So as I'm in that position here, my body wants to do what? It wants to rotate. So it takes a lot of work and effort for me to fight that. So there's times when it's beneficial to work on anti-rotation because there's specifically our low back. We don't want torque going through our low back. And that's why we talk about hips and shoulders together. Because if I stand with my back to you and I just go like that and crank my shoulders around, I mean, you can see the lines in my shirt where the strain is, okay? We don't want that. Okay? So we want to make sure that we're getting hips and shoulders moving together. All right, so who can name them? I told you there's going to be a test. 4 pillars. Doesn't matter the order. What's one?
Gait.
Gait or locomotion.
Level change.
Level change.
Push, pull.
Pushing and pulling.
Rotation.
And rotation. Okay, that's it. So if you can incorporate movement patterns that use those 4 pillars in every time you go out to do your movement practice, you should be able to stay in pretty good shape. Whether you use a kettlebell, exercise band, regular barbells, dumbbells, that doesn't really make any difference. It's more about training patterns. Train the pattern. Don't worry about how much weight and all the rest of it. Make sure that you're moving well. Move the pattern well. Okay? All right. Any questions on that? All right. Well, I'm going to finish this part with a little more upbeat video. Kind of gives you my philosophy about movement practice and some better places to do it. And let's see if I can manage this. Bear with me here. So far, my computer has not let me down. All right.
Do you find yourself longing for the apocalypse? I did. I was looking for a reason to live. Hi. Are you feeling tired, irritable, stressed out? Well, you might consider nature.
From the people that brought you getting outside comes prescription strength nature, a non-harmful medication shown to relieve the crippling symptoms of modern life.
Nature's recommended for humans of all ages, and it's great for pets too.
Nature can reduce cynicism, meaninglessness, anal retentiveness, and murderous rage. In clinical studies, nature is proven to decrease work-induced catatonia.
Caution. Nature may cause you to slow down, quit your job, or seriously consider what the you're doing with your life.
Jaded or emotionally numb, you may need to increase your dose of nature. Do you have trouble being even mildly uncomfortable? Nature may not be right for you. Side effects may include spontaneous euphoria, taking yourself less seriously, and being in a good mood for no apparent reason.
So ask your doctor if nature is right for you.
So, that's my take on that. I really do, though, I would encourage you guys to, I mean, we live in such a beautiful area, and so even if you can't, maybe you're not able physically yet to get out into the woods, or you've had to kind of back that off a little bit, at least get to a park go somewhere, take your shoes off, feel the ground, let it feel you. And the Japanese have a term, what do they call it? Forest bathing, because they live in such cramped, overcrowded, populated situations. If they didn't do that, they'd probably all go nuts. So we're very lucky here. We're surrounded by nature, and I encourage you to get out as often as possible. And there's nothing wrong with going to the gym. I go to the gym, and it's a way to stay focused and do certain things. But at some point, get out and kick the tires. Take this stuff for a test spin, because that's where it really counts. You may be able to step up and down on your step just fine, but things change when the rocks start moving and the log is mossy or whatever. So we want to work on those things. And that, I forgot one other point I should make. When we were talking about fall resistance, balance. Okay, so most people think or tend to overemphasize the balance aspect of falling. When you go to the doctor, if they think you're at risk, what do they have you do when they test you for your balance?
Stand on one foot.
For how long?
I don't know.
Until they get tired. No. Usually it's like 15 seconds, something like that. If you can hold it for 15 seconds. And that's a viable or a valid test, but how many of us fall when we're just standing? Okay, not very often. Usually we're starting to move. All right, we're not paying attention, or we start turning this way, and then we move our foot and catch it on a rug or whatever. But the point is, static balance, great to work on, good practice, do your shoes or put your pants on and all that. It's a reasonable skill to maintain, but more important is your dynamic balance. Okay, the ability again to get that base of support outside, stick your landing, and not fall. Okay? And we're gonna play with that in a few minutes. All right. Any questions on over the general philosophy or what we're doing? So you guys ready to play a little bit? All right. So before let's see. I guess what we'll do is we can take some of these chairs. Let's kind of make a circle back there. If you want to, I forgot to mention this. I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name, sir.
Carter.
Carter. All right, he's going to be filming. If you do not wish to be filmed, or what's the easiest way to do this? If you don't mind being filmed, he's got a waiver for you to fill out.
Or if everyone doesn't mind being filmed, I'll just film.
Oh, and
If you don't want to
tell them who you are or where you're from, and that this isn't going to end up
Curry County Voices.
CIA or something.
This is a program sponsored by the Gold Beach Rotary Foundation. We film programming. We put it on our website. We put it on YouTube. We are currently filming programs like this here at the library, authors talks. We film the Gold Beach City Council meetings, the Health Network meetings.
So you'll be in good company, is what you're saying.
And one of the best things we do is we go down to SWAC on Tuesdays and film their 6 o'clock series of programs that are fantastic. And but we do not edit. We clean up in the sense the camera films in bits and pieces. We need to tie it all together. We need to put a title on it. We may need to enhance the audio, but we don't edit anything. So again, if a number of you don't want to be filmed, I'll just stop now. If most of you don't mind being filmed, does anyone have an objection to being filmed?
And witness protection.
Stay behind the camera.
Yeah, that's fine.
And I have on wheels for this purpose. I can move it.
So what I'd like you guys to do is we'll take these chairs. Let's kind of form a circle or a half circle back in the back where it's open there. So take a chair with you. We're going to start in a seated position, and we're going to slowly work our way out of it. Yes, keep plenty of space between you. And I forgot to mention this as we were starting, but I think most of you got a copy of the outline that I was loosely speaking from. And then there's also a page over here of some of the activities that we're going to be doing. So we'll start with that. So go ahead and spread out here if you're going to participate. And say a couple things. When you are practicing movement, especially in a situation like this where we've got a nice smooth floor and so forth, I would encourage as many of you as possible, you don't need to do it today, but consider exercising barefoot. Why would that be useful? All right. Less things to catch, probably. What else? What is the benefit of being barefoot?
Toes to balance.
Yeah. You can feel. When we wear shoes, we really rob a lot of the muscles in our feet and lower legs, especially. We don't allow them to do their job, and hence a lot of the problems that we have as we get older with things like bunions or neuropathies and things like that. So as much as you can, I would recommend that you try to practice barefoot, okay? Or at least with socks on, always with safety in mind, so if it's not a good surface, don't go barefoot. One other little trick, how many of you have ever used a tennis ball or any ball on the bottom of your foot? Okay, if you've had plantar fasciitis, you've probably been down that road and know, but do that prophylactically. It feels good, your feet will love it. You've got a lot of little bones in your feet that when we wear shoes all the time, they don't get a chance to move around and they need to glide. Okay, those bones in your feet are different than like our elbows and wrists and so forth, which are like hinge joints. These things need to be able to move and glide. And if we keep them bound up in shoes all the time, they don't get that ability. They lose their ability to glide. And we also lose, the fancy word is proprioception, our ability to feel where we are in space and really use our proprioceptive senses to feel that ground, okay? All right, so before we get on to that, let's talk about posture a little bit. That's an exciting subject. So most of us are of an age that we grew up with grandparents that were probably always telling us to sit up, stand up straight, and all that. You don't hear that much anymore. In fact, when we look around, we got more of this going on. So how's my posture doing? Not too good, is it? So we want to make sure that we are conscious of our posture, and it really is just a matter of consciousness. So when you're standing, ideally, if I'm standing sideways like that, what are some landmarks on my body that should line up if I'm standing in good neutral posture?
Shoulder and back.
Okay, so your ear, shoulder, hip, knee, ankle. Pretty simple, okay? So we want to make sure that we keep our chin back. This is probably the hardest thing for most people because everything we do is in front of us. We're driving, and now with computers, we're all hunched over like this. So forward shoulders, forward head. This is what we're trying to eliminate. I noticed the other day when I was watching something, they've got this vest out now. I don't know if you guys have seen this. This gal's walking around like this, and she puts the vest on, and she's walking around. So whatever works, You know, that helps. But just think about somebody walking up to you and taking their finger and pushing your chin back. Okay? If you can keep track of this, the rest of this will take care of itself. But when the head comes forward, you can just see how it just automatically pulls everything else. So the chin should be back here. It's going to feel a little bit weird at first. You can try this against a wall and see if you can keep your head flat against it. When we're exercising, I often refer to neutral spine and neutral neck. And that ties into posture, and I use this a lot. Don't worry if you were a Catholic school kid. Not going to be kidding anybody. But we will use this tool to help remind us of what a neutral spine is. So when I'm in a neutral spine position, my knees are soft, the yardstick is touching my tailbone, between my shoulder blades and the back of my head. Okay? So from that position, I should be able to squat, I can hip hinge, I can go up and down stairs, I can do anything in this, and I should be able to maintain that posture.
What's it called? Neutral?
Neutral spine. Okay? So what happens a lot of times, let's take that deadlift for an example. Let me grab that. So what tends to happen in a lot of exercises, and this is probably the most glaring, so in my class, we'll have somebody pick it up correctly, they set themselves, and they go like this. What's my neck doing?
Looking forward up.
Yeah, it's killing my neck right now, just trying to do that. So if I can maintain this neutral neck, I end up looking here, not forward, my neck's safe, and I'm in a good position. So try this at home with a yardstick. If you can't, if you're not able to hold it yourself back there, have a friend or a partner, what? Tape it. And, have them set that on your back and try hinging a little bit and see if you can maintain that neutral spine. So that's really an important thing to be aware of throughout your movement. So good posture is important, not only for your safety, but keeping your bones loaded correctly and everything else. And how many people want to look younger? Oh, come on, everybody does. So if I'm walking around like this versus little attitude difference, right? So if you want to look younger, sit up straighter, walk straighter. Okay? Easy. And I don't even charge anything for that. All right. One other posture that I like to teach is what we call an athletic stance. And again, it ties into this. When we're doing things, try to keep your knees soft. A lot of times we find ourselves standing with our knees locked, okay? And then if we're in this position, it tempts us to do things that we shouldn't be, like twisting and reaching with our knees locked. So keep soft knees. So rigid is locked, soft is just that. Not a major thing. But an athletic stance, just imagine you're a basketball player guarding somebody. Knees are soft, your butt's back. I know for a lot of women this is counterintuitive and against all the ladylike things you were taught growing up, that women shouldn't put their butt back. But in my class, I want you to put your butt back because it's safer, you're powerful here, okay? You can see that this is a body that's ready to do whatever it has to do. So when you're doing an activity, keep those knees soft, keep your back neutral, and it'll keep you out of trouble, hopefully. Okay? All right. Let's grab a dowel over here, or hold on. I'm going to have you go ahead and do some sit to stand first. Let me get one of these. All right, so the first movement, we'll kind of go out of order. Well, So come on over here and get one of these dowels, and then spread out. I hope I have enough. Glad so many of you showed up. I had more, but I wasn't sure who would be here. All right, so spread out a little bit. So strength is important, obviously. We've talked about strength, but I think for aging, more important than strength is maintaining our mobility. You can be super strong, but if you can't, if you can't get your arm up to put something up on the shelf, it doesn't matter how much you can bench press, okay? So mobility is a big deal. Can we still get dressed and get our arm in the coat and do all these things we got to be able to do? So how many of you have used a dowel before for mobility? Okay, well, we'll run through a few of these. So the caveat is don't do anything that's causing you any pain. Just go gently with this. Don't force anything. So spread out a little bit if you need to so you don't hit something. So the first one we're going to do is pretty simple. I want you to get the dowel behind your back, soften your knees, palms are facing backwards. So I'm in my athletic stance, and I want you to just push back. Push back gently. So you should feel a mild stretch in the front of your shoulders, a little bit in your chest, huh? Got a bad wing?
Total reverse shoulder.
Okay.
I had both of mine replaced.
Pardon?
I had both of mine replaced with 360s.
Shoulders, yeah.
Yeah.
So there may be a couple of these that we would need to modify for you guys. But
Oh, yeah.
all right, everybody got the hang of that? So just pushing straight back. Nice,
They
simple,
let you do
not
that?
too bad.
They said I shouldn't.
All right, this next one, you guys, if you've had a shoulder problem, just watch first. So the idea with this one, just watch me. If you can bring it up overhead, great, and back down. So the key is get wide and try not to bend your elbows. So soften your knees, no lock knees, and bring it up overhead. Oh, we have an overachiever back there already. She's already getting ahead of me. All right, and then if you are able to, pain-free, you're allowed to drift back. Don't bend your elbows. That's the hard part. And remember that chin? Because this is what you're going to want to do. If you can't get there, you're going to keep pulling. Don't do that. Get up nice and tall and just go where you can. So if you can go back, that's fine. Just explore your range of motion. Okay? Not too bad, huh?
Yeah, it goes up, it just doesn't go back.
That's okay. You don't need to.
Yeah.
You have no reason to go back there.
There's no rotator cuff anymore.
Yeah. So as long as you can get up overhead, okay? Everybody got that? Good. All right. Next one we're going to do. We're going to set on our head. Put our feet fairly close together. Soften your knees. And I want you to focus on your hips, pushing your hips side to side. So imagine you're between two sheets of plywood. So I don't want you to do any twisting. I want you to just push your hips. You're in a narrow doorway. Let your hips bump. Oh, yeah. Feel good? Push those hips.
And what am I doing there? Flossing?
They're flossing their spine, yes. All right, and good. So I didn't really belabor this, and I'm not even sure I mentioned it, but one of the, I guess, most common errors I see with a lot of fitness programs is they only work in what we call the sagittal plane. In other words, forward and back. Most weight machines and so forth at the gym, the left side and the right side, whether it's your arms or your legs, are doing the same thing. Okay? We call that the sagittal plane. And we certainly do a lot there. But they're not training rotation, and they're not training this plane of motion that we were just doing, which we call the frontal plane. So if you imagine if I was sliced in half, the front and the back half of my body are doing the same thing. Does that make sense? You slice me down this way. So we want to train in all three planes of motion. Okay? So that's that one. Let's go into rotation now. So if you can't get the dowel behind your head, I want you to take it right here like this. So if you've got a shoulder issue, just put it here. Cross your arms. If you are comfortable, you can keep it there if you're comfortable with that. Just let it rest back here. Don't force it. It's okay. All right, just let your arms relax. Get your feet apart. I'm going to turn this way so you guys can kind of walk. So my knees are soft. Watch me first. I'm going to pivot to the right. So remember, hips and shoulders together. I'm going to pivot around. I'm keeping my torso tall. And I've hit a point of restriction. I can't go any further without forcing it. Now I'm going to tip back. Come back to the front. Back here. So I want you to just go to the right. Pivot your left foot. Go until you hit that point of restriction. Then tip back. Look up at your left hand if you can. Come back. And then back to the front. So you should have about 80% of your weight on that right leg. Pivot that foot around, all the way around. There you go. Here, let's bring it back to here.
Okay.
And you're going to go that way. So pivot this foot, your left foot. There you go. All the way around. Bring it all the way around. Keep it going. There. That's it. Show me one, please.
I didn't do it right because I was thinking of something else.
That's okay. Go ahead and pivot. Pivot your, go to the right. Pivot, all the way around. There you go. Good. All right. How's that feel?
Not balanced.
Not balanced. All right, especially when you get to this part where you're looking up. That could be a little much, so go slow with that.
So maybe
The main thing when you're doing this, the most common error is I see people kind of leaning and doing this, and they flip back and go there. So try to keep your torso tall, like you have a dowel running down through you, and you are rotating on that axis. I'm here, and then I tip. Okay, but I'm staying real tall and vertical. Okay, let's do a few to the other side. To the left. Get balanced out. So if you or you see people at the gym, you'll see folks with a dowel like this, and they're just standing there and they're doing this. All right, what have we just talked about? Look at my shirt. Where's all that stress going?
Yeah, all in the back.
I mean, it may feel kind of good, but you're just jamming your spine up. So when you get to that point and you just let your hip come around by pivoting, wow, all kinds of freedom. Okay? Feel okay? Yeah. So make sure you go both ways, tipping back. Good. All right, let's do something a little more shoulder specific. Those of you that have bad wings, you
We
can...
have good new wings.
Good new wings. Or if you can't do what I'm going to show you with the dowel, you can do this little halo thing where you kind of interlace your fingers and see if you can draw a circle around your head. If you can do that without pain, then you can try this. So if you've got healthy shoulders and you're not concerned about that, I want you to hold the dowel out in front of you about shoulder width apart, like this. Turn your right hand up. Okay, everybody with me? And we're going to brush our hair back and then brush forward. So it's like a kayak movement. So brush back, pull it over the top of your head, over your hair. I want you to mess up your hair. Come on, you can do it. There you go. Get the hand all the way. Yeah. Can you go back? Here, let's get this hand here. There, back. And then bring this one around. And there. Now, be mindful of this. Remember this? Because you're going to want to sometimes do this. That's not the same thing. Get that chin back. Try to get the mobility out of your shoulders if you can. If you can't quite get there, go where you can. But if you've got healthy shoulders, try to get back there behind your head. Keep it coming all the way around.
Wait, that's a good thing.
Yeah. Back,
Now, did you have a shoulder replacement?
Total reverse.
All right, let's switch that up, bring it back to the front. Bring it back to the front this way, and then this time left hand up. Let's do the same thing. So brush back and forward, left hand up. So you might want to stick with this first and kind of work on that mobility. So brush back. Good. That's all right. Let your arms bend. Be conscious of your posture. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really
That's a
interesting.
really good one. If you can
Yeah.
maintain that ability in your shoulders for the rest of your life, you shouldn't have any trouble, getting dressed and doing other little
How
activities.
many iterations would you do?
Just, 8 to 10 times. Just a few, just till you feel loose. If you're,
All stretching.
yeah, it's just
Put a
keep
brush on it.
maintaining mobility.
Put a brush on it.
Okay? All right, so that's one way we can use these dowels to kind of improve our mobility. So if you've got a broom handle at home, it just needs to be wide enough. This is probably the primary exercise that needs to be pretty long for, because you have to get so long or wide to be able to get over the top. Okay, let's go ahead and set those down. Back over here, please.
Yeah, both of mine did 360s, and I actually done and this one.
All right.
You can feel this here.
Oh, yeah, see? Virtuals are a lot better, but you get about 50% more use out of it.
Yeah.
Did you have, I had mine done at,
All right, let's go ahead and have a seat. And I'm going to give you a band. And I would like you, if you want to play this little game, you're going to put it around your feet and slide it up above your knees. There you go.
These used to be our favorite friends.
Oh, your new favorite friend, it will be. Try to flatten it out, get that in there.
Both feet?
All right, I'm going to slide it up over your knees.
okay. I thought we were going to do this.
Well, we gotta do it that way.
I was ready to do that, and I said,
So, you've done band walking before? You have? Anybody else? Oh, you're in for a surprise.
oh, we're going to go.
All right. So, the main reason I really like this type of setup is that it targets our glutes, our hips, okay? And these are the big guns. This is what we want to maintain. This is what's going to get us up and out of that chair. And if you don't feel comfortable, or one of these loops is just too much, you can buy a TheraBand at any of the drugstores now. You just get some open-end band like this, put it around, just do a loose knot. So if getting in and out of this, you find yourself hopping around, or I would suggest staying seated when you do it, but if it's just too much to deal with, try the open end. All right, so while you're sitting in your chair, put your sit towards the front edge of your chair, and with your feet about hip width apart, and just kind of press out. Your feet are going to go to the point where your feet want to lift up, but we're not going to let them roll out. Okay? So just pressing out with your knees. Kind of do that to pre-activate. Okay? All right. Now, I want you to be really careful here, because this floor, these chairs do move. So if you don't feel comfortable with this, don't do it. Okay? But you're going to sit towards the front of the chair, arms forward, just watch me first. As I stand, I'm going to press my knees apart. Okay? And as I come down, I press them out. So what I'm avoiding is this. How many of you have seen this before? We do not want this. We want pushing out. So sweep as you come up, arms forward as you come down, and sit. Make sure you've got enough landing area. Let's try a few of these on your own pace. So I want you to focus on starting with those knees apart a little bit if you can.
She has new hips too.
You have new hips. This is really going to be good for them if you'll get through that learning curve. All right. So sweep, stand up, and back down. You're working on level change, a little bit of balance. So let your body kind of come forward. So as you're standing, let yourself come forward. Rock forward, sweep. So as you come down, keep your arms out, and then sweep back as you come up. So keep them out as you come down. Now stand and sweep. There. Good. So try to keep those feet hip shoulder width. Keep your knees over your ankles so they're not going in. Really work on pushing out. Feel a little low.
I can't get up.
Reach forward, come on up. So you're trying to come up your chest like this.
Your
So
legs are separated.
lean forward. So lean forward with your upper body. Put your feet out in front of you just a bit more. Right, lean towards me, and here we go. Here we go. So what I would do to practice is hang on to the side of a sink or a railing and practice down and up, and then over time, like you're just playing the piano, just hover your fingers there so you've got it if you need it, and then eventually freestanding.
Okay.
Okay? So let's get you up one more time. All right, you guys ready to go for a walk? All right, let's have you guys head down that way, and you guys come around this way. You guys can walk wherever you want over there. You can stay here. That's enough over there. All right, so what we're going to do is pretend like we're walking on railroad tracks. Yeah, don't get too carried away back there. All right, I want you to get your feet wide. Push your knees out over your ankles. So I'm not letting this happen. I'm keeping them here. I'm going to pick my feet up and walk straight. Toes straight ahead. Push those knees out. Pick your feet up. Pick them up. Kind of not like regular walking where you're going heel to toe. Try to pick your feet up flat like this. Good. Whew. All right, that's good. Now, carefully go backwards. Be mindful of each other and the furniture. Pick your feet up. Try to keep your toes straight ahead or slightly pigeon-toed. Push out of those. Push your knees out. Push those knees out. Bend your knees. Bend your knees. Bend your knees. There you go. Good. Woo. Anybody feeling anything? Feeling the love? Oh yeah. So with this little piece of equipment, you can really get things working. And this is where the game is played, right here, these hips. So I would strongly encourage you, you can use a bicycle inner tube. It doesn't matter. Just put something around that you can resist. Okay? And they make these in all sorts of punishing strengths. All right, come on back to your chair and then carefully get out of your restraining device
I've done a
there.
locum. They specialize in just they did an excellent job. This one,
All right.
4 months. I had this one done, and then I had this one 4 months.
I don't ever want to do it again.
It wasn't no pain, no nothing. They gave me
All right.
And for 2 weeks, I never even used.
Don't be afraid to use it.
I've been doing that.
Oh, good. That's
Never
okay.
used painkillers.
One thing, when you guys are using these things at home, please sit down and put them on and take them off.
Oh,
If you are standing up and try to do this and pull out, 99 times out of 100, that band's going to catch on the tongue of your shoe, and you're going to be doing this. And this is not a good time for dynamic balance practice. Okay? So just be careful.
Did you do your physical therapy here? Or
No, I
All right.
I feel
So we just accomplished a little bit of level change and a little activation there. Let's quickly go ahead and stand up. We're going to work on that hip hinge. You know what? Let's have everybody find a place on the wall, doesn't matter where. Get about 6 inches from the wall, with, facing outward. So put your heels about 6 inches away from the wall, about hip to shoulder width. Put your hands on your thighs. Okay? Get nice and tall, and then soften your knees. And I want you to push your hips back and let your chest come forward. Try to touch your butt to the wall. Now let's keep that chest up. Don't round now. We don't want to be rounded. Remember that? You've got that yardstick on your back. Don't make me use it now. So push your hips back. So it's not going down, it's pushing your hips back. Touch and come back up. So, if you can see me, when we squat, okay, my torso angle and my shin angle are complementary or the same, right? This is a squat. In a hip hinge, my shins are vertical, so that my knees are not going forward. So make sure your hips are going back, your belly is coming down and filling that crease right there. Okay, and then back up. That's a hip hinge. And a good way to practice, again, you can use your dowel instead of using your hands on your thighs. So we're here, just imagine you've got 300 pounds on the bar and you're pushing those hips back. The dowel stays in contact with my legs the entire time. Okay? So if you are at the gym and you see somebody lifting weights and they've got the bar out here, they're waiting to blow up their back. Okay? That bar, a good deadlifter has bloody shins or bruised shins. All right? So we want to push those hips back and literally scrape that dowel right up your shins. Okay? Now you don't need to be bleeding and so forth, but you do need to work on that pattern. So think of, you're way too far away. Get about half that distance. Now reach back and touch. Now don't fall back. Bend your knees a little and push your hips back. There. That's it. Okay. Everybody getting the feel of that? That's your hip hinge. Okay, are your shin angles vertical?
But my knees
See, your knees are going first. The first part of this is back. This is a hard thing to rewire because a lot of people want to do that. Push back. Shins vertical. Shins vertical. All right, everybody got the hang of that? Good? I feel okay? All right. So please consider every time you go to pick something up off the ground, whether it's a piece of paper, your shoe, a 45-pound bag of potting soil, get over the top of whatever it is you're picking up, hinge your hips back, get under it and lift it with your hips, okay? This notion that we've kind of taught people to use your knees or whatever to lift, that's not really helpful, I don't think. Think of lifting with your hips. So you've got to get them back, load it, and unload it, okay? Hips back. Good. All right. Let's work on some static balance. So come on back around by your chair. So I want you to stand behind your chair so you've got a little stability if you need it. If you feel a little shaky with that and you'd rather be next to the table, use that or a wall, whatever you're going to feel comfortable with. So behind your chair, I want you to bend both knees. And I want you to shift over to your left leg, pick up your right foot. If you can put your hands on your hips, do that. If you don't feel steady with that, hover them above the chair. And then I want you to slide your right foot out to the right as far as it'll go. Hold 2, 3. Come back. Try not to touch the foot to the ground. Bend that left knee. Your left hip should be talking to you. It's saying, bend your knee, soften that left knee. Soften your left knee. Yep. Bend it, bend it, bend it. There we go. This is the hardest thing to get people to do, is to bend their knee, load into that hip. We all want to stand like this and do it. Get down. There. Ooh, feel it? Just shifting over to one leg like this really gets these glutes working. So always practice in a safe place. Besides a chair or railing, you can be in a doorway if you feel more comfortable there, and have your hands there. But you've got to practice getting over. Let's go over to the other side now. So soften both knees, shift over to your right. Your knee should be bent about like mine is, and then let that foot slide out to the side and back. Good. You cannot bend this knee too much. Promise. Good. Nice. So this is a good example of a static balance drill that you can do anywhere. So if you're at the grocery store and you're waiting, instead of just reading or while you're reading the Inquirer, you can pick one foot up, no one will even know. Yeah, and just practice. Or when you try brushing your teeth, or every time you get a glass of water at the sink, see if you can drink on one foot. Okay, so those are ways to practice. But as I said, we don't normally fall when we're standing stable. We want to practice our dynamic balance. So what I'm going to show you now is a way to practice that. You're going to turn sideways to your chair so that you've got your hand here. And we're going to take a step forward with our right foot. And the way I'd like you to land is to land on your forefoot, and then the heel comes right down. So unlike walking, where we're walking heel to toe, when we're practicing balance, you do not want to land on your heel, because this can happen, okay? So land on the forefoot, get the heel down, and again, broken record, bend the knee, absorb. So I want you to imagine you're back, you're 16, you're out past curfew, and you're sneaking back into the house. Yeah, we've all been there, right? All right, so step forward with that right foot, missing the creaky board, and then step back onto your left. So just take a small step. Don't make that's maybe too big. Keep it real compact. Just step forward. Here, here. Try to own that part of it. Good. Forward and back. Try to count 1, 2, 3. Pick the foot up. You're only going to get one. You only get one foot.
Only get one foot.
One's down, one's up. As this one touches, this one comes off.
Okay, so go on.
Take your time. Good. All right, let's reverse that now. Turn around the other way. And now we'll step forward, left foot. Get that heel down, bend the knee, soft knee, and then step back onto your right. Step forward on the left, back on the right. So this is the kind of balance that is really going to make a real world difference for you. Practicing, you're decelerating, you're balancing while you're moving. All right, go ahead and turn towards the front. So just, we don't have time to do all of these, but that's in the sagittal plane. That's forward and back. We can do the same thing side to side. Just stop 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. So this doesn't count, because what am I using to keep me up? The same thing we all use when we're walking, momentum. We're good as long as we're moving, and then if we have to stop, whoa, can we do it? Okay? So there's side to side, and then for rotation, this is a lot harder, and I'd recommend you do it at the doorway. Just watch me. You can take a 90-degree turn here and here. And in case you haven't kind of figured this out, our eyes make a huge difference too, don't they? So make sure you're looking straight ahead or pick a spot 6 to 8 feet on the floor in front of you. You don't want to look at your feet. You want to look out slightly ahead or at something that you can focus on there. So try a couple side to side, looking at something on the floor out in front of you. And then once you get pretty comfortable with that, stop and then look up. What happened? It's a little weird, isn't it? Yeah. So you can kind of play around with this as you get more comfortable. But always practice in a safe situation. So a doorway is a good place to practice. And you can obviously ramp this up to where you can add a little bit of a hop to it, make it more athletic if you want. But start with the basics, make sure that you really own that. Okay? Let's feel safe. Okay. Wow, what happened to time? All right, let me just finish with a couple of these. I'll just sort of demonstrate this. So I really like bands because they're what we call an ascending resistance. If we're lifting weights, as we push up, as you get towards the end range of motion, it actually kind of floats up. Okay, the momentum kind of keeps taking it. With a band, it gets harder and harder as I press. So it's pretty easy here. It's harder. And then when I get to this end point, it's really pulling me down. Okay? So bands are good because there's not a shock load or something that can fall and pull your shoulder out or something. You've got pretty good control with this. So we can press, again, something like this. We can press overhead. And if you're pressing overhead, I would always recommend that you use a staggered stance. If I stand like this, like you're used to seeing most people, what happens? What am I doing right now? Is my back happy? Probably not. Because as soon as we go up, people want to push their hips forward. Okay? So if you if you have to put something up on a shelf, put 1 foot forward and then put it up. Now my back is staying in what position? Neutral. Okay? So we're not hyperextending and we're not going the other way. So we can press up, then we can flip this over, and you can press this way. So if you can't do a push-up, although I would argue that everybody in here can do a push-up. Thank you. You don't believe me, do you?
Yeah, I do.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to show
I
us?
worked real hard with that.
Yeah. So you can all do something like this, probably. All right? The other tool that I would recommend that you consider, not necessarily buying the strap system, but two of the most basic pushes or push and pull that we can do is a horizontal push and a horizontal pull. This is where we do a lot of stuff here. Not too many of us do pull-ups anymore or have a reason to dip other than getting out of a chair. How many of you have seen a strap system like this before? Nobody? Okay. These are really, you can do hundreds of exercises with these, but I'll show you a cheap, easy way to do it. But for the pushing portion of it, the reason I said everybody can do a push-up is that there is an angle that everyone in here, unless you've really got a messed up shoulder, that you can come forward and push up. Okay? If I want to make it harder, I get my feet back, I have to work hard. Okay? Same thing pulling. Here, up and down. So I like this because you're using a fraction of your body weight or all of your body weight. If you suspend that overhead, you can make it vertical. You can make this, you can challenge the best athlete in the world with this. And somebody who's in their 80s or 90s can use this. You can, the other thing you can do with it is that assisted squat we kind of alluded to earlier. So I'm here, I'm coming down. I'm in a safe position. I'm able to control what I'm doing. It's good. So if you don't have spare $150 or whatever those things cost. You all familiar with these, right?
Yeah.
All right, can you visualize what I'm going to say? Get 2 of these. This is not a sexy handle like the other ones, but it works. Get 2 of these, put it through the door, tie a towel to it so it can't come through, and you've got a cheap and dirty way to push and pull yourself. So, no excuses, okay? And then finally, for the rotational piece of it, I would encourage you to, how many of you have done planks and things like that before? All right, so those core stabilization exercises where if you can't hold yourself in this plank position like this, you can probably do it from your knees unless you've had a knee replacement and it's uncomfortable to be there. But as long as your back is neutral and flat, you can do it from there or there. We have side plank variations. So these are all good core stabilization exercises that I would recommend you keep in your repertoire, okay? We want to keep those muscles activated so they do their job. Who knows what the job of the core is? First of all, what is the core? Everybody uses that term. What is it? That's part of it.
Okay.
Trunk. Okay, better.
Torso.
Well, let's just make this simple. Take away your head, your arms, and your legs. That's your, yeah, that whole torso. It's this whole thing. So, doing crunches and things like that are such a small piece of what this does. I want you to take your hand, left hand, and grab just above your hip bone. Get in there, give me a big hunk. Grab, get everybody in there deep, right? And then get where you're not going to smash your right hand. But you're grabbing deep, now take your right hand and go like that as fast as you can. You feel anything in your left hand?
Yeah.
What's happening?
Tense.
Did you tell it to?
No.
It just doesn't.
So why are we sitting in the gym doing this?
Yeah.
Core muscles are reactive muscles. Core muscles are reactive muscles. We don't use these unless, well, I'll give you a bizarre use of flexion this way. How many of you know what a Danish kiss is? How many of you have been in a bar fight? Apparently not too many. That's a good thing. All right, we don't walk around doing this, okay? The only time you ever sit up is once a day to get out of bed, probably. All right? So don't do a bunch of sit-ups. It's really hard on your spine. There's plenty of ways to train this, and it trains by reaction. So what we just did here, we moved a lever out here. Same thing happens with your leg. You can't feel it as dramatically, but anytime you move your arms, legs, or your head, try this tonight when you're laying down. You're in your bed, and just start to lift your head up. Put your hands here. You're going to feel those muscles going on before you just barely move your head. This is working. You don't have to tell it. It works automatically. The key is learning to incorporate movements and so forth that allow that system to do their job. So that's where the chopping and the lifting patterns come in, or throwing. So we're getting all of this lovely cross-firing through our core. That's the way it works. Doing a bunch of sit-ups is just going to wreck your spine and feed into this. That's why bodybuilders spend so much time trying to develop this that if I'm bulked out here, you can see my six-pack, so to speak. What's my back doing? So these muscles are short and tight. What are these? They're long and weak. All right? So we want to maintain balance. And so if we sit here and do this and over, I would say if you've got a crunch, if you just got to do it, make sure you do as many back extensions. So if you do 50 crunches, do 50 back extensions. Still don't want you crunching, but if you got to do it, I understand. You just can't help yourself. All right. I think that's about all I can give you today. Do you have any questions? If you do, I'm going to be around for a few minutes. I really appreciate you all coming out this morning. I hope you learned something. There is a Better Bones and Balance class here in Gold Beach. If you're not familiar with it, Carol Seaton teaches. There's also one, anybody from Langlois? No, okay. So there's a class that's held at it's a Presbyterian church, correct? The one, Pioneer Cemetery Church. So if you're interested in working on some of these things, that would be a great place to start here locally. And if you have any questions about your own routine or issues that you're trying to work around or need some help with that, I'm happy to help you out. Okay? So, thank you very much for coming and being a fun group to play with. And I wish you well, and don't forget your copies of that if you need it. My card's over there if you need to get a hold of me. All right. Thank you.